a Christian digital project as a tool to cause impact. How people in post-modern world gets to faith. How is this travel done in our context? As is usual, we say always that this is a process, and usually we know that, but we do not know freshly how is it produced. So there is a book that is very interesting. That is the book Pathway to Jesus, Crossing the Thresholds of Faith, that they have done a different approach. They start their book with meet the authors. But meet the authors, all of them, not just the two authors that are people working for InterVarsity, but all the authors, because they have studied 2,000 cases. They have gone to talk to people and ask them, what's your story? How you have been converted from postmodernist world to Christ? How have you done this spiritual trip? And they have found something interesting. There are two findings that I want to share with you. First of all, it's quite obvious, but going from unbelief to faith is an organic and supernatural process. It is not produced by men. It is produced by God. And He uses many things that we don't know how they work. It's only God who knows how it works. But there is a second finding. And in all these conversions, there is a similar path. They have described the process as crossing 5 thresholds. And I want to highlight the 2 first. First of all, when in Europe, it is quite obvious that there is distrust in our Western society about Christianity. Even people who have been in contact with us, when they know that we are Christians, something frozen between us. Some distrust is created among us. And how are going to break this glass? How are going to cross this? The process is that people can see in us Christ. In fact, people only do this trip when they see Christ. And when people are modeling in his life Christ, people can see Christ. And then they can cross the first threshold. The only way to be converted is seeing Jesus in the life of a Christian. Only when they establish a relationship with that Christian and that Christian is credible, the trip, the travel is possible, and for a Christian that incarnates Christ. But many people, unfortunately, cannot see Jesus today through the churches and through Christians they have around them. Some churches are not allowed to see Jesus with enough clarity. There are people uncomfortable with the secular worldview. They are like the eunuch in the times of the first times of the church. They are uncomfortable with what they see in their society, but they do not know how to find Jesus. And there is no probably a Christian modeling Christ in their surrounding. So the distrust remains. In that situation, if they can see that Christians are good news people, if they can read or listen that Christians have ways of thinking from another worldview, from another perspective, they can start to defrozen that distance between Christians and them. If their prejudices about Christianity are challenged in a gracious way, it is an opportunity to see Christ in the background. They can see that maybe it's something different, but they have to see Christians in action. Everything in the church must have this goal, that people see in Christians Christ. As C.S. Lewis said, the thing that the church have to focus is that Christians are little Christ. Only when they see in Christians Christ, they will believe. On the other side, a digital newspaper can provide believers the tools that they need to answer creatively the questions society really have. We as Christians have been accused to answer nobody question, that we are interested in answer questions that nobody asks. But what about if society decides the questions and we try to look up in the biblical perspective for answers? Let's that they put the chessboard. Let's play in their chessboard, but with the biblical answers. This is the possibility that offers to have a digital newspaper, not to set what will be the news. We do not decide what are we talking about. They decide what we are talking about. But we can choose what the answers should be. We can propose another answers than the normal one. The problem is that usually Christians think in the same perspective that people around them. But if we dare to think in another perspective, people will see that there are other solutions. And being alternative is maybe the way people that are uncomfortable with what they see, but usually they do not have those alternative answers. Let's, okay. What are the benefits? I will touch 3 points. Is what are the benefits of a digital project compared to other kind of communication tools? The evangelicals in Europe come from different previous situations. We have different spiritual backgrounds. We are not the same. We are Europeans, but come from different situations. So in some parts of Europe, evangelicals have been mainline. Maybe if you come from the north of Europe, from Scandinavia, or maybe if you come from Germany, or from the Netherlands, or from Switzerland, evangelicals have been mainline. But if you come from the south, we have been a tiny minority, usually persecuted. And what's your perspective from where you come? You can see situation from many different perspectives. There are in our society the problem of many sellers but not enough consumers. What I want to say with that, that evangelicals sometimes are desperate to transmit, to share news, but nobody is listening because they are not interested on what religious people have to say. And our desperation, our need to pass information make that sometimes we do not use the right pulpit. We use media or we use means that are too direct, that as we do not have too much people to listen to us, we want to be too fast to break that. And if you are too pushy, what you get is that people get more resistance. The other day, it was a woman that was telling me that story. She's a teacher. She's a teacher at the university, and he was with another professor at the university. And it was people preaching in the center of Madrid, and they both were walking together. And the non-believer said to the believer, "Look, this man there will go to us and will try to convert me." And they approached, and effectively, the men came to them. And when when he approached to both the believer and the non-believer, he said, "Can I share something with you?" And this professor, the man, the non-believer, says, "Okay, if it's not about football or religion, you can do this." Started to talk, and I want to talk about Jesus. I've said you were going to talk about religion. No, this is not religion. Of course, this is religion. And we are so desperate to transmit our message, to give our message, then sometimes we do not take time to defrozen, to create trust. And not creating trust is that there is a block of ice between us and them, and we have to take the time. Sometimes we want to be too apologetic, and we create websites, blogs with very good arguments. Evangelicals are really good with arguments, and we have very good thinkers. The problem is that nobody goes there to read what we are writing. How can get the people in a place where they go to read? Not we go to look for them. They go to our media to read what we are writing. If we are too pushy, we are not going to get that result. Our question, our suggestion is to use a less direct approach, but through questions raised by society. As I said before, they have the right to propose what we are going to talk, but we have to do that in an indirect way, using a different tool. Our proposal is to use a digital newspaper. That kind of digital newspaper that is not only for academics. Thinking what people read in your society. Think in the kind of newspaper people in your society wants to read when they dip their croissant in their cappuccino in the morning. Yeah, if we create that kind of newspaper, if we have the newspaper everybody wants to read, and even if we have scholars there, we have to ask them to write for everybody. If you are not at the street level, you have not the right to write in that newspaper. You have to look for just specialist blog. But the problem is that nobody will read you, or just the specialists will read you. But if you want to go to the streets, you will have to write your knowledge for the people in the streets. Let's talk about the second. What kind of journal? It is possible that a Christian journal would get some attention from both evangelicals and seculars. As I said, the question is thinking on what you want to read while you have breakfast. Sections have to be similar to other digital journals. Graphics have to be very similar of what is done. If you see in Spain and you look El País, you look El Mundo, and you look La Vanguardia, these are the three main newspapers, two from Madrid, one from Barcelona, And you see Protestante Digital, it is very similar. White in his background, clear sections, and you can read everything from politics to sport, from society to science. And this is what Spanish want to read. If you want to have a radio station that everybody listen to, what have you had in this radio station? Classical music? Probably not. Mixed music? Classical, then Celtic, and then British pop in the same radio? No, nobody will listen to that radio. You have to offer the class of radio, if you want to reach mainline people, the kind of radio that people, when they go in their cars, they push the button, and this kind of radio you have to offer if you want to reach mainline people. There is a combination of news and opinion. There are magazines inside. There is audio and video. There is interaction between readers and editors. There are polls. It is very important. People today, they do not want just to be bombed by information. They want to interact with authors. They want to say their say. We have asked to deliver God from temptation. This is what we have to ask according to the prayer of the Lord. And we have made the prayer of the Lord of our newspaper. What is the prayer of the Lord of our newspaper? Is keep us from being the church tabloid. This is not what the people want to read. We have to keep from being the newsletter of an association. It is tempting. It is from the Spanish Evangelical Alliance. Wow, if we use that everybody in the world knows well what we are doing. Don't do that. You will kill your project. Nobody wants to have breakfast with your newsletter. Nobody wants to do that. And you will kill what is your best success. You have to admit that people critique your organization in your own newspaper. If not, you cannot do that. And this is one of the things that has caused most problems to us. The critique, not just to us, but how we admit critique against other Christian institutions in our newspapers. This has been painful, and big conflicts with other organizations. Yeah, this is one of the risks. We can talk about that later. There are no messages, no preachers preaching anything in media. There are no pamphlets, there are no propaganda. You have to keep out of all of that if you want to have something interesting. Our position tries to look for a third way. Third way, it means to keep away from religious and from secular perspective. Sometimes religious information is trying to keep privileges of the past. This is usually very negative vision when approach society. Everything is wrong in society. This is not the approach, but this is what they expect from us. They expect that we were going to criticize everything in society, and this is not what we are going to do. Sometimes religious press are looking for the old good days when Christendom was in the center of society. Is writing about our tribe, writing about how good were things when We were in the center of society, but we will probably never will get that position again in society. And now we have to play in a chessboard that is not ours, but is not them. There is freedom to play there. In that vision of religious people, Christians are always well. We are always the solution. We are always good news. And when we publish something wrong about Christians, they get big scandal that we are pushing light or focusing on something. I prefer talking about a scandal myself than the big press of my country. I want to be the first, because I do not want to cover what is wrong. I want to be people of justice, good news people, really, not covering and trying to hide what is wrong among us. We usually use the language us versus them, not us together as society. Sometimes we confuse not being the wall with not being part of society. We are part of society. We are a good part of society, but we are not the wall. But sometimes you will find more of the wall inside the buildings of the churches than inside many other parts. The wall is not a place. It's something in your heart. Second question, there is secular culture, and sometimes this secular culture is even aggressive. Journalism that usually does not talk about spiritual or religious matter. In Spain, we have, I hope your press is not like press in Spain, yeah? But recently, it was three women that exhibited. They were part of a movement that is called Femin. Do you have Femin in your countries? Do you know what is that? Do you pronounce in that way? Feminism? No, Femin. They are women that exhibit the breast publicly, yeah, and they get attention. Well, they were on the third newspaper of the country. They were on first page, yeah, with big picture in the third newspaper of the country. And then there are big concentrations. There are big news, for example, that thousands are killed, Christians are killed in Nigeria or Iraq or Syria, sometimes are not mentioned. Or sometimes it's a small news inside. Or sometimes that they are Christians is hidden, that they are killed just because they are Christians is hidden in the news in my country. And what are the criteria? Why three women that sing and are respectable and have their opinion, why three women are news in my country to exhibit, to show in beaches is quite common. No women wears top in the beaches of my city. We reproduce news, or we invent or create news. What's the value of three persons making a demonstration, or the value of thousands of people dying for their convictions? This is the perspective, and people are tired of that perspective. They are intelligent people, but they will have alternatives to that. They will see that there are other possibilities. Would it be another possibility when Christians that never appear, only appear when they are bad news? This is a way of discriminating. There are people that do not fit on that. There are people that do not fit in the box media have in our country. If they look for more respect for values, they have to go to very conservative media, and they are not. They do not agree with that very conservative media. Others, they go to a progressive press, but they found that they are constantly in active campaign against values that some people support. Christians are not Christians. Christians are not the only ones that support some values in society. We have some people that can walk with us, at least part of the walking. We are not waiting that people leave our newspapers. We will be the next newspaper. In the digital society, people do not have to pay for digital contents. So we do not wait that they leave El País or that they leave La Vanguardia. They want to be the next, the third or the fourth. But how many digital press do you read in normal day? Do you read no digital press? Or do you read one? Or do you read two? Let's do a poll. How many of you read at least once a day one digital media? One, at least one. And how many read two? How many read three? Well, you are big readers of press. Good. Why read all the same in all newspapers? Yeah? So sometimes you perceive that you want something different. Something different. And in Spain you cannot go to the Catholic press. You cannot go there because there is no daily Catholic press. And it is like that religious mindset what you can read. You don't like to read that. And you look for different perspective of the daily news, the normal ones. And this is the niche we have found. There is nobody covering that in our situation. Yeah, we are in the third. Okay. But we need stories. Sometimes we need a new narrative for Christianism. Sometimes we are good, we are clever people, we are apologists, and sometimes when there is a story about a person who suffered because of being homosexual and has suffered from his family, from society, from their surroundings, and now he has freedom to marry, and he has freedom to adopt children, and now our reaction on that is argument one, or reason one, reason two, reason three, reason four. We are losing the battle before starting the battle. We need a new narrative. We need stories. One story is you can fight again one story with another one. We can fight about one argument of the hurt with another argument of the hurt, not about reasons. When Richard Dawkins discussed with Christians, with John Lennox and Alistair McGrath, he was before starting conversation, and he was in main line. What was his problem? He was too aggressive, too bitter, and Lennox and McGrath were calm and not bitter, not provocative. Just this is one thing we have to understand when we do press. It's not only the arguments, but the way we share our arguments. What are your sources of information. Where they come? Usually, sources of information about the evangelical world. From where they come?
Facebook.
Facebook? Okay, this is good. What more?
Some web pages you visit.
Okay, where are they produced?
They produce the things they want to share from their perspective, and only special news that concerns them.
Yeah? And are they produced in your country? No, good. Where are produced, if not in your country?
Most of them in England.
Good. In England, some in the States. We have many information coming from the States. Some in the Germanic world. They produce quite a lot. Yeah? But do you know that there is life on the other side of the channel? That east of Britain, there is land there, and in this land, yeah, really, and there is, listen to me, there is people there, yeah, and that people have churches, wow, and have stories and politics and society and life, and are doing amazing things. Did you know that? Did you know that Eastern Europe exists?
And it's not in English.
Yeah, so many people there can even speak or read in English.
They are in their own language, so...
Yeah, what to do with that reality that we have? What about people thinking in Slovakia? Are people thinking in Slovakia? Are good thinkers there? Is it happening something apart of the English-speaking world? That's one question. There is life outside the center. Second question. There is also a worldview question. Yeah, I have to stop. There is a worldview question. The countries where information comes, for example, the States, Britain, Germanic world, are countries that have experimented with Reformation, that have experimented with Enlightenment, that have experimented with modernism. They have gone to a postmodern world from a modern world. That means that for them, thinking in religion, it's a rational question. And their approach is giving reasons, rational reasons for the faith. This is not in the South. If you are Italian, Spanish, Greek, this is not in our surroundings. People were traditional until the 70s. Or even now, there are people that have never thought, they do not have anything in their DNA just to react for reasons. They are not, we come with a big number of arguments about the reason why there is a God or why Jesus is God. We are culturally strange for that people. But they are Europeans also. Can we produce something that goes from tradition to postmodernity without the past for modernity? And we can produce something for that kind of mindset that have millions of people in Europe. Millions of people. There are other ways of thinking on spirituality. Can we produce something for them? Europe have different approaches when thinking in a most connected world, where interest goes far beyond of the borders of the local world. We have to tend to reflect we have to tend to reflect complexity. Could you go to the next? We have to go to a complex, connected world. Where is produced the music you sing in your churches? States? Australia? Probably? Yeah? It is a connected world. Decisions taken at European level affect our local lives. Migrants from the world are becoming important part of our societies and even of our churches. Do you know that just in Spain, in 12 years, the church was doubled? We were 200,000, now we have 400,000. And all our migrants in our churches have the double, but they are not Spanish. Well, they are Spanish now. But they come. How many people from abroad are in Switzerland? 25%, sure? Yeah, it's one of each four. They are in our churches. They are the spiritual reality of our continent. There is Manuel Castells, he's a Spanish professor in Berkeley, that says, he talks about the clash of the local and the global level, and what is creating in the world of spirituality. There is big complexity. Can we have something that reflects that kind? This is because something from not the center, but from the margins of European culture can be interesting for everybody. Nobody will catch attention from everybody. What are our risks? Risks are the clash between local and global. I don't know how it's in your community, but in our community, if you are a fan of Real Madrid, you will read only Marca. If you are a fan of Barça, you will read only Mundo Deportivo. This is the question. There is a hooliganism in some reading. Will be able to jump this hooliganism? Or people are going to interest only on what is happening around their parish? This is a danger in a European. I don't know. I do not have the answer. I will finish. Evangelicals in Europe. We are one of the best social structures in Europe. There are many organizations that have big budgets, that have big names, and are you, your wife, and your dog. No more than that. And we are not that. We have people everywhere, very committed people, very intelligent people. And maybe we have the capacity to do such a project. This is my guess.
So last year in the media network, the last day, I think you remember, Margon and Lars, we were having a circle, all of us, and then sharing a bit what we're doing in our countries and what our dreams are for the future. And Vladimir was there, and I don't know if anyone else was there. But one of the things I was sharing was about Protestante Digital, about what we were doing there in Spain, and the dream of doing something similar for Europe. And I just wanted to share a bit the model, what we're doing in Spain, and then the idea, what we're starting now for Europe. John was saying a bit before, there has been no liberty for evangelicals in Spain in these years, 39 to 75. You may have heard about Franco, the dictator, as Mussolini in Italy or in other places. The law for religious freedom was, we had religious freedom only in 1980. And right now, as John was saying, we have about 400,000 evangelicals. That means 0.9% of the population. And as he was saying, half of those are immigrants who have arrived to Spain in the last years, mostly from Latin America, but also from Eastern Europe, Romania, and Chinese people. In Barcelona, we have a big Chinese community. And then, very interesting, 100,000 evangelicals are gypsies. I don't know if that word is correct, politically correct. In Spain, we say gitanos, but they are really an important part of the evangelicals in Spain, and they're making a big impact. So, if you talk to someone of this ethnical group, all of them know someone who's evangelical in their family. So there are many evangelicals who are from this ethnic group, and then we have 120,000, which are the rest of us in Spain. So we are a minority inside of the minority of evangelicals. So Protestante Digital, this is the website Jaume was talking about. It's 11 years old now, and it started being an agency through fax and email before Google was created even. And then in 2003, we started with a web magazine, updated twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, and then daily updates, daily news, daily opinion from 2011 on. And then in the latest 4 years, we have created a stable team of 3 people who are the staff. And then with that, we have been able to grow more and doing a redesign and creating a mobile version, etc. So the vision for Protestante Digital is 2 lines. On one side, giving an adequate and representative image of Spain's Protestantism. So many people in Spain, they would think of, when they hear about evangelicals, they would think about the United States, they would think of George Bush, they would think of the preachers in televisions who are trying to get your money. So what is Spain's Protestantism? Who are we in Spain? Does it exist? Evangelicals who are born in Spain and have their own Protestant identity in the country. And on the other side, we want to give opinion. What do evangelicals think about things happening in society? What can we offer to society? And all this is under the umbrella of the Evangelical Alliance. But as Jan was saying, it's not an official agency of the Evangelical Alliance. It wants to be much broader than the people who identify with the Evangelical Alliance. So why not Evangelical Digital, the name? So perhaps you ask yourself, if you are from a Protestant country where you have a big difference between old Protestants and new evangelicals, and if we are evangelicals, why are we calling ourselves Protestants? But in Spain, there is not such a division, so Protestants, evangelicals are almost the same. And in universities and people, thinkers in secular society, they really have an attraction for Protestantism because they think Protestant is that European thing which shaped the values of Europe. So we want to identify with Protestants. Perhaps in your country you don't want to because they're liberal and you would say, I don't agree with their theology, but in Spain we want to. So far, we have, in these 11 years, these are a bit the data. We have published 16,000 news and reports, about 13,000 opinion articles, and this is possible because there are 50 people writing opinion every week, so 1 article a week, and all of this is for free. So we're not paying them. And then, as Jan was saying, there is a big interaction. We have had more than 60,000 comments on the news in these years. And more than 800 people have written 1 article at least in these 11 years. So 800 people from Spain and also from other places have been able to have 1 article published in Protestante Digital. And this has helped that so many people feel that Protestante Digital is a project of theirs because they have been able to publish something there. So that's a bit the audience from Google Analytics in the first month. So we have about 411,000 visits every month and 618 seen pages every month. As you see, we are 400,000 evangelicals in Spain, and it seems that there is more visits than evangelicals, and I will explain it why now. On Facebook, we have these followers, Twitter, and then that's interesting. We want to focus a lot on doing audio interviews. So we have uploaded more than 300 audio interviews in these years. And interviews with very normal people, not only with leaders or pastors, but just testimonies of people sharing what are they doing in their churches. So one thing that has surprised us in the last years is this change. So we were thinking of a media for Spain. We were thinking of how can we help this small minority in Spain to be more visible to society? How can we have a small impact on secular society, secular politics, education? But then with the years, more and more people come in from outside of Spain. People who also speak Spanish in their countries in Latin America, they're starting to come in. And right now, readers from Spain are only 26%, and 73% are from outside of Spain. Mexico, USA, you know that there are many Spanish speaking in the USA. Colombia, Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, etc. So right now we had to change the contents, because if you have most of the people coming from outside, you have to write things about them. So you have to find people in Chile, in Argentina, who would send reports in, so that we can keep this audience following us. What are people searching for? What do they Google when they arrive to our website for the first time? Firstly, Bible, theology, verses, archaeology about Israel and things they found about the Temple of David or things like this. Then Catholicism. We are in a ex-Catholic country as Italy and others. So people want to know what we think about the Pope, and mostly what we think about the new Pope, because he's so popular. And yeah, what do evangelicals think about him? And then celebrities. In Spain, we have loads of football players who come from Latin America, and many of them are evangelicals, like Falcao, or the one in Madrid? Baca, who won the Europa League, who scored the 2 goals. So people want to know about their faith, and because they're very outward speaking about their faith, it's easy for us to report about them. He said that he loves God, and then he loves his family, and these are his values, and he reads the Bible every day. And it sounds a bit yellow press, but it's useful in Spain to show to the rest of society that there are very popular people who are Christians as we are, and we have the same faith, and you can try to connect with that. And the fact that there is many Latin Americans coming into the website creates a funny situation, which is countries like Chile, which have 15% of evangelicals in the society, are being influenced by evangelicals in Spain, which are 1% of society. And that's interesting. You can have thinkers from Spain, from a small minority, influencing people in other places which are far away. And that means that new authors coming, so people start writing, theologians. For example, Manfred Svensson, he's a theologian from Chile. He writes to us, contacts us, and because people in his country are reading Protestante Digital, he wants to start writing with us and other people. And then this is interesting also. We have a reader's block, which means anyone reading the website can send their articles, and we publish them in a section for readers. So we want to be a tool for the church in Spain. We want to be a dance floor, a platform where people can join in and feel that they are part of it. This app makes connections with radio stations, our evangelical radio stations, and we would do collaborations with them. Churches are using our contents in their news bulletins, etc. And we're trying to do it with a Creative Commons license. So we are not copywriting anything. So anything that is published in Protestante Digital can be used freely if they quote the source. And then there are other religion media, like Catholic media. They would also use the contents. So it's not the official voice of the Evangelical Alliance, but we are giving the Evangelical Alliance a voice. So when Jaume and others are issuing statements about the humanitarian crisis in the Mediterranean, we are having in Italy and in Cyprus and in Spain. So they would write a statement, we would do the article, and most people would read the statement not on the website of the Evangelical Alliance, but here. In Catalonia, in the Barcelona region, the parliament just created a new law which gives special rights to the LGBT movement. This means in schools it needs to be taught about the LGBT movement, and media will be followed if they are respecting the movement. So again, Evangelical Alliance was giving out a statement, and we could publish it about Islam, etc. I will skip some pages because I want to. Well, that's an example of Jaume was saying we get critical reactions also from other evangelicals. So we have Protestantes. He's one of the leaders of this movement of homosexuals who say that they are evangelicals, and they would say that we Protestante Digital are homophobic. So that's the director of Protestante Digital, Pedro Tarques. That's me, and that's Daniel Hofkamp. And this very strong article against us and really attacking us and asking the government to close us down. And these are other evangelicals attacking, in this case, Protestante Digital. So that's one of the risks when you grow, that there are other evangelicals who have other lines who would go for you, which is sad because we're such a small minority and still having these problems inside of us. We want to visualize what evangelical churches are doing in social action, churches feeding the families. This is a big issue in Spain, prostitution. We are the first country in Europe to receiving slaves, people who are being trafficked into Spain for prostitution. There are many, many brothels in Spain. When there was a writer, I can't remember his name, from the UK, he was coming to Spain and discovering different regions. And he said the most striking thing was seeing so many brothels by the street. So you could stop every now and then and have a different brothel. And most of the women there are from outside of Spain, from Romania, from Nigeria, from Latin America, and most of them are trafficked. And we as evangelicals think we need to do something about this. We need to be the leading group in Spain, which is pointing this out and denouncing it and taking action. So we try to talk about this too frequently. And then the question Jaume was making, are non-believers reading our website? So we did a poll on the website. There were more than 1,000 people who voted. And so Protestant evangelicals are 67% of the readers, but then we would have people who would say they have no denomination. We have 12% of Catholics, and they are the people who are commenting the most, very critical. So we have lots of debates. At the end of the article, you would have loads of Catholics reacting to what we're saying. We have a small amount, but still 3% of atheists and agnostics and other religions. So it's 2/3 are evangelicals, but 1/3 of the readers are not evangelicals. So we're trying to use a writing style which can be understood by people who are not evangelical. So not using the evangelical jargon. And when we are talking about things like Trinity or other theological discussions, trying to contextualize, to explain what does the Trinity mean, why is it important for evangelicals to discuss this. And as Lars was explaining yesterday in the politics, I think it was in Norway that you had this book to try to explain to journalists who evangelicals are. So we did the same in Spanish and wrote this Libro de Estilo Protestante and gave it to the media so that they can understand more about who we are. And yeah, that's an interview we did. We had local elections in Spain 2 weeks ago. She's the candidate of the Conservative Party for Madrid, for the region of Madrid. And 3 days before the election, we had the opportunity to interview her, go to the party building and do the interview and publish it. So we're trying to connect with secular politics too, and asking the questions that evangelicals would ask the politicians. And finally, about Protestante Digital is this prize that was created. Unamuno is a writer, a Spanish writer of the beginning of the 20th century, and he is very respected in Spain. He was not a Christian, but he had a very good relationship with a Protestant pastor before starting the Civil War. And when this Protestant pastor was under big pressure by the Catholic institutions and by political power, he defended him, and he said that he had the right to have his own religion or his own Christianity. So we created this prize in 2006 called the Unamuno Prize, and the idea is to visualize a non-evangelical, someone who is not of our churches, a person or institution who has helped the freedom of speech in Spain and has engaged with the evangelical minority. So we want to say this person is not an evangelical, but he likes plurality, and he has been having connections with evangelicals, listening and dialoguing. So we have given this prize to a university because they created the Luther Aula in their university. We have given it to a journalist of El País, which is the biggest newspaper in Spain, because he was reporting a lot about religious liberty in Morocco, and there are Spanish missionaries which are in Morocco, so we are really interested about religious liberty there. And then historians, etc. And 2 years ago, we gave this prize to the Minister of Justice of the Spanish government. We thought we can give it, but he will not come. He will say, I am too busy. I will send a representative to take the prize. But he actually came. He used to be the mayor of Madrid, and when he was mayor of Madrid for many years, he was very good at connecting with the minorities, and he was helpful for evangelicals then. So Perotarkis had to meet the team of him to prepare all the activity, how do you say when you have to do all the protocol, yeah. So you cannot speak longer than him when he speaks, so you have to do less than 10 minutes because he's going to speak 10 minutes. After the prize in the hotel, he's going to stay for 5 minutes and then he's going. So you need to let him go and after these 5 minutes with the drinks and everything. But the reality was that he came. That's him. That's Gallardón. You see the Premio Unamuno behind. That's Perotarkis, the director of Protestante Digital. He came and he gave a very emotional speech. Pedro said he was never said he always almost could see the tears in his eyes. He was going through a very difficult political crisis at that moment. He was being very attacked by other political parties and by the media. So it was interesting. He said, I hope to live my career, my life according to the values that this prize represents. So you can say that's political talk. It could be, but Pedro was close and he was seeing that he was really something that was coming out of his heart. And because he was in the midst of the political crisis, there were major media with the cameras there outside of the hotel. So all the news of that day when he came out and gave the interviews, they were saying, Gallardón said that after receiving the prize of the Premio Unamuno given by Protestante Digital. So it's one of the few times we are quoted on major media. But that also brought sharp criticism from other evangelicals, saying you should not have given this prize to this politician. He is very conservative, and we are not conservative. He's Catholic, and we are not Catholic, blah, blah, blah. So in the end, whatever you do, yeah. So it's 10 minutes just to finish. Evangelical Focus. So we come from this model in Spain with, again, 3 people on the staff, but many people being part of this platform. And we thought, not only we, but people in Europe were saying, well, why not do that? Try to do something similar in Europe. Perhaps you know Paulo Martinez. He's from Spain. He's part of the board, I think, of the European Leadership Forum. So there were conversations with him. And so they were thinking, there is not an online Europe-wide daily news and opinions website with a clear evangelical worldview. There is one which is very liberal. It's protestantnews.eu. But there is not one for all of Europe which has a clear evangelical worldview. So Protestante Digital kind of sent two people to this new project, which is Belen and me. And last year we were introducing this to some leaders in Europe, and that's the website. You can check it on your laptop. And that's from yesterday. Northern Ireland was starting to apply the banishing for paying for sex on Monday. And as far we have, of course, less people than Protestante Digital, less views, but that's since January, we have about 13 people writing from different countries, from Spain, from Italy, from the UK, from Brussels, and from Switzerland. And for now, we have written about 350 news pieces and 160 opinion articles. So those are some of the headlines of some of the articles. We did an interview with the new General Secretary of the World Evangelical Alliance from the Philippines. That helped that the following day, on our statistics, many Philippines came into the website because he shared it on his Facebook and on his Twitter. Evie Rodeman, you know her, we did an interview with her. With Greg Pritchard, the director of the LF. Franklin Graham was coming to Barcelona 1 month ago or so we could do an interview with him through the phone. The audio wasn't great, but at least, well, we tried. And then Christelle Mer, he's working, lobbying for evangelicals in Brussels. So we're talking with him about freedom of speech. People from Egypt, we know Ruslan Kukarchuk, he's from Ukraine. He was here in this network last year, and we connected then, and he's writing some articles. So there are other people. The Mediterranean crisis is one of the topics we really want to touch on, because we are there, and we have, for example, Leonardo Chirico, he has been writing about this. And this is the audience so far. So, yeah. That's interesting that it's for Europe, and still the Americans are the ones who are coming in the most. So it's like frustrating. Why are Americans coming in? We are doing this for Europe. But I think that.
How many Spanish are in America?
No, that's the English now. That's the Evangelical Focus now. So that's in English. So it makes sense that Americans are coming in. But STEAM, because
also then don't understand the English.
It's about evangelicals. It's in English, so the public in the United States of evangelicals is very big. So through Google search, I guess, many coming in. Spain, the UK, Italy. We're trying to report a lot about Italy because there are people writing for there. Netherlands, etc. And that Philippines. It's funny that more than 500 people have come in already from Philippines, which is funny. So to end, some conclusions. The best response so far to Evangelical Focus, there you have the flyers, you can take one, or you can take more than one if you want to share in your country. Our leaders, but our weakness so far is the people in churches are not coming in yet to the website. So it's more the leaders which are coming in, but as Jama was saying, we want to do something for everyone, not just for leaders. And then an article gets viral when the person who is featured on the article shares it and has an influence. So Alistair McGrath, we did an interview with him in video in Spain. We published it in Evangelical Focus, and it got more than 5,000 likes because he put it on his Facebook and on his Twitter. Berlusconi, Politics and Evangelical, that was with one of the Evangelical Alliance from Italy. Orwell and the Rights to Dissent, that's Jose Segovia, a journalist in Spain. He was writing about freedom of speech based on Orwell. That's our different authors and articles. Kurt Cobain, and then how how the gospel relates to nirvana, Catholicism, reflections on the UK general election by Michael Gowan. He's a politician. He was 20 years in Brussels working with the EU Commission. So to end, how to use Evangelical Focus. We don't want to be Spaniards doing a website for Europeans. We want to be Europeans doing it for Europeans. So I think the project is going well and it's exciting, but we will not go much more far if people are not reporting from their own countries. Evangelicals all over Europe saying, this is my platform, here I can share my news, here I can explain what's happening in my country from an evangelical perspective. So we're searching for correspondence. Hopefully our dream is we would have 2 people writing from every country in Europe in, let's say, in 2 years or 3 years. Hopefully we would achieve that. We're searching for translators who would translate from their national language into English. We have 5 people now translating from Italian, French, Spanish to English, but we need people from Romania, from the Czech Republic, from Polonia, from Sweden, from anywhere. We need correctors because in my case, English is my 3rd language. My parents are from Switzerland, so they speak German. Then I was brought up in Spain, and English, is, as you can see, is not my strongest. But it's the same for anyone writing from their own countries. English will never be our first language. So we need people who help us correcting the articles.